Center and my friend Otto Ruhl, and all of you dear friends, I am honored to be here today representing my country in this beautiful and generous surrounding. You are traditionally, the Danish people are the people of the long boats, of the long ships. We are the people of the long memory. We are the nation of the very long memory, and we the Jews are the people who remember. And we the Israelis are the country that honors those who helped us in our time of peril, in our time of need. In our tradition, each year when we celebrate our deliverance from slavery in Passover, we say that in every generation a person is obligated to regard himself as he had come out of Egypt. As it is said, you shall tell your child on that day, it is because of this that the Lord did for me when I left Egypt, when I was delivered from Egypt. And likewise, since 1939, in every generation, a person is obligated to regard himself or herself as if he or she had been through that awful time of persecution and hunting of Jews known to all as the Holocaust. I was born in Israel, where my family had lived for at least 7 generations. And so my family was secured. We were there. We were not here. However, with the emerging years, I cannot help seeing myself in horrible possible situations emanating from bigotry, hatred, anti-Semitism and persecution. Perhaps the worst thing that I could think of is not being able to provide for my family, not being able to protect my children, which was the situation at the time. In his poem, Refugees Blues, the English poet W.H. Auden described the Jewish situation and predicament in those bleak years prior to the extinction and annihilation. They were robbed of their identity and of their self-esteem, which was stripped away from them. They became refugees with no place to go to. And later, they were deported, and later still, they were exterminated. And Auden wrote about German Jews, as you will soon hear, but it was true everywhere in Europe. And this is what he wrote. And I will read his poem called Refugee Blues. Say, this city has 10 million souls. Some are living in mansions, some are living in holes. Yet there's no place for us, my dear. There's no place for us. Once we had a country, and we thought it fair. Look in the atlas and find it there. We cannot go there now, my dear. We cannot go there now. In the village churchyard, there grows an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. Old passports can't do that, my dear. Old passports can't do that. The consul banged the table and said, if you got no passport, you're officially dead. But we're still alive, my dear. We're still alive. Went to a committee, they offered me a chair and asked me politely to return next year. But where shall we go today, my dear? But where shall we go today? Came to a public meeting, the speaker got up and said, if we let them in, they will steal our daily bread. He was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. Thought I heard the thunder rumbling in the sky. It was Hitler over Europe saying they must die. Oh, we were on his mind, my dear. Oh, we were on his mind. Saw a poodle in a jacket fastened with a pin. Saw a door opened and a cat let in. But they were not German Jews, my dear. But they were not German Jews. Went down the harbor and stood upon the quay. Saw the fish swimming as if they were free. Only 10 feet away, my dear, only 10 feet away. walked through a wood, saw the birds in the trees. They had no politicians and sang at their ease. They weren't the human race, my dear. They weren't the human race. Dreamed I saw a building with 1,000 floors, 1,000 windows and 1,000 doors. No one of them was ours, my dear. Not one of them was ours. Stood on a great plain in the falling snow. 10,000 soldiers marched to and fro, looking for you and me, my dear, looking for you and me. And that, my friends, was the situation in the 1940s. Jews from Eastern Russia to North Africa could recite the old biblical verse, I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from whence comes my help? But no help was coming, no succor was offered. Only Denmark, only in Denmark, in Bulgaria, but Denmark was under occupation. Only in Denmark it was different. Only Denmark stood alone as a shining example of humanity. From these shores behind me, some 8,000 Jews were rescued and sent to neighboring Sweden that generously accepted them and gave them shelter. And we, the Jewish people, remember, we, the Jewish people, we, the State of Israel, will never forget. We shall always be grateful and cherish the brave and heroic actions of Denmark. We have squares and plazas in Israel named after Denmark. And it shows how grateful we are to you and how much we cherish that very sweet memory of the one country that stood up to tyranny, to bigotry, to hatred, to execution, to extinction, and showed the world the way to go. Thank you all.